What up, boyos? If you want to level quickly as Rogue, I got you. In the description below will be a build guide. However, hold up. There's useful information in the video itself that won't be in the guide, so you'll miss out. But anyways, let's get into it. If you're wondering if this is another Twisting Blades video, it is. Blade Dancer's aspect from Jalal's visual in Skazglen is the single best skill aspect in the game. Enough said. This build is what I used to level to 100 in hardcore in the preseason race with. This build is what I got my name on the Statue of Lilith on Blizzard headquarters with. It's just a little too good where it outshines most other builds available to Rogue. We'll see if the balance changes and additions to the game in season 2 have an effect on the Rogue's metagame, but as far as overall best builds in the game with the least amount of weaknesses go, Twisting Blades Rogue still takes the cake for dozens of reasons that won't be gone into in this video. Instead, we'll talk about the playstyle itself that will help smooth the build out in the early game, as it can be a bit clunky if you don't know exactly what you're doing. First and foremost, do whatever you can to get Blade Dancer's aspect as quickly as possible. Help make it the first dungeon you do. After that, since you won't be using your ranged weapons with this build at all, put Blade Dancer's aspect on there for the 100% bonus to its effectiveness. And a funny little tidbit, all the footage in this video is actually only with Blade Dancer's aspect on a crossbow, and it's only like a level 5 crossbow as well. That's the funny part, is that how strong it is. Even with one single aspect, you can do the entire game. The stats on your ranged weapon won't be very impactful on your overall damage until late into World Tier 3 and all of World Tier 4, so you don't really have to worry about swapping it out constantly and running out of materials if you don't want to. This goes into the next aspect of disobedience, which you'll want to put on your necklace because of how easily this build stacks it up and maintains it at max stacks. Each poison trap tick of damage over time on each individual target adds 1 stack of it. Each hit from each enemy from each target within Shadow Trap also stacks it up by 1, and each hit from each Twisting Blades, Blade Dancer's aspect, twirl, and everything, that all stacks it up by 1 as well. You'll just be at max stacks all the time. You'll be insanely tanky, and it's just insane. These two together make Rogue do what most other classes only dream of being able to do in the early game. The best way to get the most out of this build before you get tons of resource related affixes on gear is to use Poison Trap to set up trap related interactions, then use Twisting Blades until you're out of resource, then use Shadow Trap with the Aftermath passive to fill your resource back up to full, and then continue using Twisting Blades. And if you're fighting a group of elites and trash mobs, they'll all be dead by this point. And if you're fighting a boss, Inner Sight will have procced by now, allowing you to keep spamming Twisting Blades, and by the time Inner Sight runs out and you burn through your remaining resource, which Inner Sight topped off, the boss will probably be dead already. And seeing as how bossing is going to be a focus in the game from now on, Twisting Blades Rogue just got that much more desirable to play for those that haven't picked up the class yet. It can do literally everything and can do it with flair and style. It's probably the funnest build in the game if you've never played it before. Tons of single target damage when preparation procs, tons of AoE damage from Poison and Shadow Trap and the Blade Dancer's aspect, tons of CC from the traps and the major perk Exposure, which is still overpowered by the way, tons of movement from Shadow Step and Dash and multiple passives as well, tons of tank from various passives and the Paragon board armor availability amounts, which it has the most armor available to it than any other class, and it ends up having more armor than Barbarian, even though Barbarian stacks strength. It's crazy. And tons of sustain from Siphoning Strikes and from the new Vampiric Power, and we'll get to that too in a second. The biggest difference from Rogue on release to now is that I'd focus a little bit more on getting attack speed to make up for the nerfed Siphoning Strikes proc rate, and that's really it. You can use Shadow Imbuement until you get the major passive Exposure instead of Shadow Step, or Poison Trap to shore up your AoE until you can start spamming cooldown reduction mechanics, but you don't really need to, because that would only be from around level 25 and prior to that, and that section of the game is usually pretty trivial, so I wouldn't worry about it too much. The Vampiric Powers for this build will make the Rogue stronger than it was before all of the nerfs to Twisting Blades came in, and have even more sustain than before Siphoning Strikes was hella nerfed. There are other builds that can do similar things that Twisting Blades can do for the Rogue. I'm sure like all of their core skills are really good, but they can't do everything that Twisting Blades can do, which is why it's my pick for the season. I hope this helped you feel more sure about Rogue's continued strength going into this season as well. Popping up now should be a couple other videos you might find helpful or relevant. TY, stay safe.
Efficient. Farewell.